Welcome to the Explainer. Let's just jump right in, shall we? Today we're unpacking a really fascinating breakdown of Proverbs chapter 12, uncovering what is essentially a masterclass in living well. If you're looking for a highly structured, totally no-nonsense guide to building a stable, successful life, well, you are definitely in the right place.
But actually, real quick before we get into the actual steps, I want you to think about something. Did you know just how old these words are? I mean, we're talking about a text compiled thousands of years ago. This is way, way before modern psychology, self-help books, or life coaches were even a thing. And yet, as you'll see, the insights here into human behavior, emotional intelligence, and personal growth, they are incredibly relevant today. It's almost startling how accurately it describes the modern human condition.
To put that into perspective, the commentary for verse 12:19 highlights a profound reality. Truth is always timely, mostly because it connects with changeless character. It asks us to just think for a moment about the centuries that have passed and the countless hours spent carefully studying every single sentence of this text. The reason this book has withstood the test of time is simply that human nature hasn't fundamentally changed.
Now, before we start mapping out our blueprint, it's really vital to establish a baseline context. Looking at the study notes for verse 21, we find this absolutely crucial definition of what a proverb actually is. It's a general truth about the best path to take. It is not, however, some universal magical guarantee. The text clearly acknowledges that yes, harm does befall the righteous sometimes. But generally speaking, living by these principles equips you to see the opportunities in your problems and move forward, rather than just being completely crushed by them.
So, how exactly do we apply this? Well, we're going to distill these verses down into a tight three-step guide. 1, embracing discipline. 2, mastering your words. And 3, achieving real success. Let's start with step 1, the foundation. This is all about embracing discipline and instruction. The very first verse of this chapter just kind of hits you right between the eyes. The author immediately sets up this binary choice between two types of people, and the language is famously blunt. It literally forces you to instantly categorize your own behavior. The contrast is just brilliant. A wise person is defined as someone who loves discipline, loves knowledge, and crucially, they listen to advice. On the flip side, the foolish person hates correction. In fact, verse 1 literally equates hating correction with being stupid. And according to verse 15, the way of a fool always seems right to him. In other words, a fool just assumes they are always right. So why does this matter? Well, the crucial point is asking yourself, how do you handle constructive criticism? As the study notes for verse 1 point out, if you want to learn, your willingness to accept discipline is just non-negotiable. Refusing correction reveals a deep-seated pride problem. If you refuse to learn from the wisdom of others, your personal growth just halts entirely. But if you embrace intellectual humility, it literally opens the door to a lifetime of endless education. Okay, let's see how this builds into step 2, the expression, which is all about mastering your words and emotions. Once our internal foundation of humility is set, the text naturally shifts to our external expression. Across these verses, Proverbs heavily utilizes antithetical parallelism, which is basically a fancy way of saying it contrasts opposites, to show the immense, tangible power of our daily emotional intelligence. Just look at the stark differences here. A reckless person reacts immediately. They show their annoyance at once, and they use their words as weapons. Verse 18 says they pierce like a sword. But a prudent person, they have the emotional regulation to just overlook an insult. Their tongue brings healing. And verse 25 offers this really beautiful piece of psychology. While an anxious heart weighs a man down, a kind word cheers him up. Now, why is this so critical? The study notes for verses 16 and 23 really unpack this for us. It is totally natural to want to retaliate when someone insults you, right? But doing so only encourages trouble. Overlooking it, answering slowly and quietly, diffuses anger. It displays incredibly high emotional intelligence. Plus, the prudent person keeps their knowledge to themselves. They don't feel this burning need to show off or prove anything, which demonstrates a deep, quiet confidence rather than a loud insecurity. And that brings us to step 3, the output. This is all about diligence and totally redefining real success. Before we even look at the specific verses for this step, we really need to look at this fantastic piece of commentary for verse 3. It fundamentally challenges and honestly redefines what it actually means to be successful. The verses themselves promise incredibly different outcomes based entirely on our work ethic.
Diligent hands will rule and prize their possessions, and as verse 3 states, the righteous cannot be uprooted. They have true stability. In sharp contrast, laziness ends in slave labor. Verse 27 even paints this incredibly vivid picture of laziness. It describes a person who catches game but is literally too lazy to even roast it. The wicked simply cannot be established because their foundation is entirely unstable.
The commentary sums this up perfectly with a really piercing question. If someone cheats to pass a course or gets a larger tax refund by cheating, is that success? The text argues absolutely not. These apparent successes are only temporary, and they are bought at a huge expense to your character. Cheaters just grow more dishonest and callous over time. Real success, according to this ancient wisdom, is maintaining personal integrity over the long haul. That is how you build a life that actually withstands the test of time.
To wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a provocative thought. We've seen that these ancient words hold a highly relevant blueprint for a stable, wise, and emotionally intelligent life. So ask yourself, which of these 3 steps, embracing discipline, mastering your words, or pursuing diligent integrity, is your foundation missing today? Which one do you need to start practicing, like right now? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating text with me.